This is a company that's supposed to be about inner beauty, and we had that kind of stuff going on in the store. It's shocking to me that nothing was ever done about it. Hey holograms, it's new! So today's vlog is actually my most requested topic, and I've been putting it off for many years because it's just a lot to talk about. Yes, the title of this video is true. I served in the soap war. I worked for LUSH Cosmetics for 5.5 years, and I'm finally gonna talk about it. I'm gonna share the good and the bad, but before I get started, I want to make something really clear. I'm not doing this to drag LUSH, to call them out. I'm not asking anyone to boycott them or anything like that. I still use LUSH products when I can afford them, and I'm actually really grateful for my experience. I'm just being honest about my experience. Also, some of the stuff I'm going to talk about might be unique to the location that I worked at. We were a unique LUSH store. We weren't like a normal shop that like closes at 7. We were in a tourist location, so we had longer hours. We dealt with hundreds, sometimes thousands of people a day. It was pretty overwhelming. Some stuff I'm gonna say does actually have to do with the company as a whole, or at least the North American side of the company being unhealthy. Again, I'm just sharing honestly what I saw and what I experienced. But it's been a long time since I worked for LUSH, so maybe things have changed for the better. I don't know. The truth is, I still have nightmares about working for LUSH. Like, I'll have a nightmare that my boss called me in and I'm like, oh, but I haven't worked for you guys for years, how weird. But then like in the dream I end up at LUSH and I'm dealing with all the stressful things, and like I wake up with my heart racing. It's so weird. But I think that tells you a little bit about what it was like working there. Okay, so first I'll talk about the good stuff, because there was a lot of good stuff. So number one is, it was my first job and I learned so much. Something that I could really like sink my teeth into, like skincare, hair care, bath stuff, essential oils, all of that I'm so passionate about, so that part was really fun for me. I really genuinely enjoy that kind of stuff. Another great thing is that the hiring was very diverse, so I got to meet so many different kinds of people from all different walks of life. And I was a teenager when I started working there, so being able to be in a space that wasn't high school, where I wasn't just surrounded by kids or like by family, was really great for my development. I met so many people, even people who I only got to work with for like a few weeks, I still talk to this day, and I'm really grateful for that. Of course, the big perk is that we got 50% off of all the products, so that really helped me stay on top of everything, and like buying gifts for holidays and birthdays was great. Another really great thing is that there were always creative opportunities at the store, whether it was dressing up for a party, shooting and editing videos for the party, making graphics. It was awesome that my manager could be like, hey, I need you to do this thing for the party, just log your hours on Photoshop at home and then let me know and I'll pay you. Another thing I really liked is that LUSH did focus a lot on different charities and even campaigns for like awareness and good causes, whether it's like to end shark fin soup trade or like freedom to marry, which I got to be one of the faces of. It was just like the employee packet, so it wasn't like public, like out in the store for customers to see, but it was really important to me to represent freedom to marry. Thank you, LUSH, for letting me do that. Another thing is that they sent me to Vancouver for 5 days so that I could go to the headquarters and see the factory. What an experience. I didn't want to leave. It was so cool. Like, we ate so much good food, and seeing the factory and like meeting Nick, you know, Nick on the sticker. Like, he's so tall, he was towering over me. If I can find the picture, I'll put it here. Seeing the products being made, and even like getting access to products that they don't normally sell, like special products that you can only get at the factory, that was awesome. So I went home with a huge bag of LUSH product that lasted me like over a year, like special stuff. Alright, so now is the hard part. I gotta talk about the bad stuff. First I'm going to talk about like just general stuff like working there, and then I'll get into another topic. So right off the bat, things were kind of weird. They hired me when I was 17, which I later found out was very illegal because you have to be 18 since we handle like knives and stuff, you know, cutting soap. So what would happen every night is that we would send off the door counter numbers to the headquarters in Canada. So this was a little sensor that would approximate how many customers we had during the day. The company would see that and compare it with like our hourly sale, our goal, our skincare sale, gift sale, blah blah blah, all that stuff. Because it was a tourist location and we would have hundreds of customers a day, the managers up there would be like,
yesterday you had 800 customers but you couldn't even make goal. You guys are slacking about
blah. They would yell at us. Like they would call and yell at the manager and I would see tears in her eyes. It was just really unpleasant, and no matter how much we tried to explain to them, like we're not a normal LUSH shop that has like 50 customers in one day and they're all return customers and they know what they're buying and so they buy a lot and that makes the goal. That's not how it works. You know, we have people coming up from Hollywood, like I said, we have families, tourists, field trips. They can't afford to buy an $8 bubble bath. You can't sell an $8 bubble bath to everyone in the family when they're on a limited budget, when they're just going to, you know, the touristy
Hollywood
location. It just was unrealistic, and I understand that we had to make that goal in order to pay rent, which is why the store struggled so much. It doesn't matter how much knowledge I have and how good I am at selling, if the employee doesn't have the money to buy a whole skincare line, they're not going to spend that money, and I can't force them to do that. And that's another thing. We were trained and pressured to not respect people's boundaries. That was a huge problem for me. Like, I get it, it's a store, we're supposed to sell product, but if you're making someone uncomfortable and you're manipulating them or like just harassing them and not leaving them alone, it's gonna cause problems. I always did my best to read someone's body language or their face or their voice to intuit whether or not they wanted to be left alone. Because some people will tell you, like, leave me alone, I don't want to be talked to, I just want to read the labels or look at the soap myself. And that's cool, that's fine. But some people have a hard time setting that boundary. And so I would just kind of read them and go, okay, well, you know what? My name is New. I'm going to be over here cutting soap. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask me. And I would leave them alone. A lot of customers really respected that. You know, people have anxiety and, you know, there's so many reasons why someone wants to be left alone. But if my manager was there, she would literally be like in the corner, like, other mother, like, smile, go talk to them. I would try to explain to her, I already talked to them 3 times. They would like to be left alone. And my manager just, and she would like force us to go keep talking to customers who did not want to be talked to. And what would usually happen is a customer would blow up. Like, they would blow up and lose their mind. Like, what the I told you to leave me alone. Which I totally understand, and this is a problem with most LUSH stores because that's just the way that we're trained. We're trained to like, I hated that part. Like, if I have a customer who's genuinely interested and we'll have fun together and I'll show them everything and we'll work out a skincare routine for them or whatever. But generally, customers want to be left alone and they'll come to you if they have a question. That's not the way LUSH in America likes to operate. I know that LUSH in like the UK, like I have a friend who worked there. She said in the UK, customer service is very different. I don't know if that's true now, but she told me this back then. She said, like, if you go up to a customer and say hi or like, what are you looking for? How can I help you? It's a big social no-no. It's like you have to let them come to you. I wish that's the way it was here. It would make it a lot easier. I was really uncomfortable with the way LUSH trained us to like manipulate people. Like, even if the customer said no once, we would have to keep pressuring them, especially if the manager was watching, because if we backed off and went, oh, okay, and respected that they said no the first time, no, I don't want to buy that product, or no, I don't want to upsize it, manager would write us up, take us in the back, we'd have a meeting. People would get fired over it if it happened enough, because that's just the way LUSH operated. It made me really uncomfortable. Really, really uncomfortable. Also, stores like LUSH have a really flexible return and exchange policy, which made it really easy for customers to take advantage of us. We had a ring of girls going around with the same receipt returning moisturizers over and over again. I don't know why they did it, but they would go to like all the stores in LA and return the same products and like get money back. It was so bizarre. It affected us, you know, that takes money out of our daily goal, and it sucked. You know, I had a customer one time bring a big giant shower gel in, and she was returning it, and she goes,
oh, well, it's too watery, I don't like it.
And I'm thinking, oh, that's weird, like this shower gel is not that watery, it's actually quite thick. Maybe it was a bad batch. And she said,
no, I added water to it because it was too thick.
And I still had to give her the money back because that's just the way Lush operated. But it's like the customer admitted to me that they ruined the product and I still had to return it. It's just kind of silly, you know what I mean? Also, a lot of customers understood that we were under so much pressure to make daily gold that they would use that against us. They would manipulate us. I can't tell you how many times I had customers be like,
I want more samples. Can you give me more samples?
and I would tell them, oh, I already gave you 3 and that's the max I'm allowed to give. And they would be like,
Well, I'm not buying any of this then.
and they would like go put their products back, and it's just like they only did that to try to make me go, oh no, oh here's more product, more free product. The managers never had my back in that kind of situation. They wanted us to kiss the customer's ass and to give them free things, but then later when they would look at like the budgeting, they would be like,
Wow, why did we spend so much money on samples? You guys need to stop giving out samples so much.
and it's like, we tried to set the boundary, but then you don't honor it, and it was just a messy situation. And then I had customers like this one lady, and this happened a couple different times, but like this one in particular, she had me do like a giant gift basket, like over $100 worth of stuff. I made it all pretty, I helped her find product, and this was all over the phone. I was giving her all the knowledge I had to put together this perfect gift basket. And then she was like,
Well, you know, I don't really feel like I have a good incentive to buy all that. Like, is there anything you can throw in for free?
and again, I was like, well, I can offer you up to 3 samples. So just let me know what you want and I'll throw it in there for you. And she was like, well, I'm gonna call the other stores. I'm gonna call the store and see if they'll do that for me. And so she called the store, and of course they were like, oh yeah, we'll give you a bunch of free shit. They gave her free bath bombs, free bubble bath, free shampoo. They gave her so much free stuff. And she called me back and was like,
Oh, yeah, they gave me more free stuff, so I'm gonna get the gift basket from them.
but yeah, that kind of thing happened so often, and the managers enabled it. Unfortunately, the managers were so desperate to make our daily sales goal that they would be like, oh no, it's fine, just write off those bath bombs and give it to her for free. Like $8 bath bombs people would get for free just because they were buying a bunch of other stuff. I think it's really cool when companies give a lot of samples. Like Wish Trend, I order from them once a year, and they give so many skincare samples. It allows me to try new things and discover new products. It allows me to give the samples to my friends so that they can try stuff. It's great, but they're offering to do that. With Lush, we were just completely at the mercy of manipulative customers, and we never had a support system within the store so that we could feel that we were being backed up if we lost a sale because we weren't willing to violate the 3 sample maximum in order to get them to buy all that shit. Another thing that was difficult was that we were required to constantly touch people's faces, hands, and feet. We would give full 2-hour facials, which was illegal because we're not trained estheticians. We would like do appointments and people would come in and get a free 2-hour facial. I would use like a whole skincare line on them, right? The customer would buy like 2 products out of that. It would be like, you know, doing a foot treatment on some guy, like washing his feet and putting a mask and scrubbing, and I wasn't making tip for that. We didn't get any kind of extra pay. It just felt really gross. I did not like that I had to touch people's feet. It's one thing if we're doing like a foot care party and then we like demonstrate all the foot products to show the customers how to use it and give them a little bucket. Like that's fun. We had tons of parties like that. But like my manager being like, hey, he might buy a lot, so you know, give him a little foot treatment. It was just fucking nasty. I really hated that. My manager would just be like in the corner watching me, and I would get in trouble if the customer was like, oh, that's out of my budget and I can't get that. You know what I mean? Like, it's not my fault if they can't buy a $90 moisturizer. On the subject of having to touch customers constantly, it freaked me out because we were constantly pressured to come into work even if we were sick. So I would come in like with a fever and like wheezing from bronchitis and like barely able to speak, and I was still expected to sell skincare to people and to touch them and stuff. And I just like, even though I wasn't like contagious, I just didn't like that. And even one time I had pink eye and my manager was so disappointed that I didn't come in for my shift. Like I had pink eye, you guys. I was swollen, I was oozing, I was all red. And my manager was like, well, can't you just come in? And I was like, no, ugh. This next complaint has more to do with the factory, I guess, but I was always really disappointed in how inconsistent the products were. I understand that with handmade products, you're gonna get batches that differ, and that was part of the charm. You know, you'd get bath bombs that looked slightly different from each other, and you could really tell that they were handmade. But a lot of the time, we would get a batch that Like, the products would be so much smaller than they were the month before, but they would be the same price. That felt really unfair to the customer, to me. And on top of that, there were constant problems. Like, we would get a batch of product where they forgot an ingredient, and so we weren't allowed to sell it, because if you forget an ingredient, you're not sure of the composition of it, right? It was just an issue, you know. We'd get a whole batch of stuff that didn't have the right kind of emulsifier or whatever, and it was just such a waste, you know? That happens with factories sometimes, I know, but the frequency in which it happened at Lush was pretty astounding. Alright, so it's time to talk about the managers. So the manager position at the shop that I worked at was cursed. I'm not even kidding you. It was like the Defense Against the Dark Arts job. No one lasted. They would get fired or they would quit because they were like, what the hell is up with this company? Everything is so messed up. A lot of my managers were pretty abusive, if I'm being completely honest. Something that really bothered me during my time at Lush was the disregard for customer safety. So like, I always asked a customer if they had any kind of nut allergy or any other allergy that I should know about, because these products are made out of like ground almonds and, you know, oils and things like that. Allergies can kill someone. So I was really careful about that. Before I would show any product or put anything on someone, I'd be like, by the way, are you allergic to almonds? No? Okay, cool, let's do this. Just trying to be safe and considerate for the customer. One of my managers overheard me ask a customer if she had a nut allergy. Afterward, he took me aside and he told me to not even ask that question, because in his words,
you'll put it into their mind that the product can hurt them.
That is completely unacceptable for me. That is a total disregard for someone's safety. Like, what was he gonna do if I had not asked and like put an almond product on someone who was deathly allergic and then they died? The same manager frequently called me a hypochondriac. This was during the time when I was going through my ulcerative colitis diagnosis, and all my other illnesses were undiagnosed at the time. I was really struggling and I was in pain. I was throwing up constantly. I was coming into work miserable and suffering and not knowing what was wrong with me. He would mock me. He would be like, oh, you're complaining about your back, and oh, my back, ooh, my stomach. I just felt like there was no empathy for fellow co-workers or for the customers. That doesn't have anything to do with Lush as a company. These things I'm talking about are more about like the managers that I dealt with personally. There is a little bit of responsibility that I do put to the company, and I'll get to that in a little bit. We did have co-workers who were just bad and inappropriate and did really bad things, and management would not terminate them because we were so desperate to hang on to employees because no one lasted at work. Even like the regular employees were in and out. Okay, for example, I had co-workers who would very loudly say racist or homophobic things, even saying slurs to me and to like my gay co-workers, even coming up to me on my break in the back and telling me about the Bible and telling me that like I'm gonna go to hell and same-sex relationships are a sin. Like, I was a teenager and I had an older co-worker saying that to me, and my manager didn't want to do anything about it. She wouldn't fire her because we were that desperate to hold on to people. I also had a really big problem with a coworker who was older than me and who was an MIT, so she had power over me. She would follow me around the store and whisper explicit sexual things into my ear about like what she wanted to do to her crush and stuff like that. She would also loudly call me the wrong identity label in front of customers, and it just felt really uncomfortable. It was just a bad place to be. I brought this up to my manager, and instead of writing her up, the manager made me sit down with this coworker to tell her myself the problems that I was having with how she was behaving and the things that she said to me and about me. And the response I got from that coworker was, well, you're just a naive little girl and you don't know what it's like to work a real job because you just come to Lush to play with bubble bath. I am not exaggerating. I am not shitting you. It got to the point, like, I just had such bad anxiety working around these coworkers, and then I had to keep working with this girl for a couple more years too. I learned very quickly at Lush that I was never going to be supported by managers, which sucks, because some of them were not bad people, some of them were kind of corrupt. I never had any support there. None of us did. This one manager though, oh my god, I'm gonna call her Malibu, okay? She did so many f***ed up things. I can't even remember all of them because I think I might have blocked them out to preserve my sanity, but I'll tell you what I can remember. She told 2 of my coworkers that they looked haggard and tired and that they needed to show up to their shift with a full face of makeup. And she explicitly said, oh, so-and-so doesn't have to come in with makeup because they have a natural beauty. But you need to put on makeup before you come into your shift. This is a company that's supposed to be about inner beauty. And we had that kind of stuff going on in the store. It's shocking to me that nothing was ever done about it. I actually told corporate about this. I told them about a lot of stuff. One of those coworkers confessed to me that when Malibu said that, it was so hurtful. It made her go into a really bad depressive spiral. Your manager calling you ugly basically is not easy to recover from. Malibu also tried to give that same coworker her ADHD medication. I'm not shitting you. She tried to give her her medication. She told her it would make her work better. And she also said, I think you might be bipolar. This is a manager I'm talking about, someone who had power over us. When another coworker was feeling faint one day, the first words out of Malibu's mouth was, what, are you on diet pills or something? Malibu also instructed all of the female employees to stick our boobs out and flirt with male customers in order to get them to buy things. We were also told, just tell the customer what they want to hear. It doesn't matter if it fits their skin type. Just make them buy whatever is most expensive. Malibu also tried to write up an employee for not abandoning her own birthday party to come in for a shift when she'd already been granted that day off. Malibu was also really unsupportive of a pregnant coworker and kept reducing her hours until that coworker was forced to quit. Malibu also had no regard for employee safety. She attempted to write me up because I wouldn't open the door past closing to 2 large, angry, yelling men who were pacing outside of the store threateningly because they were mad that they didn't get to buy soap because we closed and they were told the wrong closing time. Like, that sucks. I'm sorry. If you had knocked kindly and said, hey, I was told the wrong time. I really need to buy some presents before I go. Is it okay if I come in? I would have been like, oh my god, come on in, just watch your step because we're mopping. Like, that's a different story. But this was 2 giant, like huge, tall men pacing outside the store, yelling, pointing at us, ranting. And you want me to open the door when it's just me and 2 other little 5-foot-tall girls in an area that is known for homicide and rape past closing because there were clubs in the area, right? So we had to deal with a lot of drunk people. I've had guys try to follow me to my car when I worked there. It was not a safe place to be, and sometimes we were leaving past midnight. Like, why the hell would I open the door to customers like that? I thought he was gonna strangle us. Like, I was terrified. I was shitting myself. The worst part is, this guy emailed corporate to tell them what bad employees we were, so they called and yelled at my manager in the middle of the night. So in the morning, she immediately wrote up my 2 coworkers, who had nothing to do with that decision to not open the door. That was me. I was the senior key holder at the time. She attempted to write me up, like I said. What she did was give this man who was threatening us a bunch of free product. So it was really clear to me that she did not give a shit. She did not care whether or not we were safe or whether or not we felt safe. That's a huge violation to me. I'm not going to open the door when there are angry, threatening, scary men outside the shop. Like, no, I was trying to protect my coworkers and myself. I was like, I mean, for me, that set off my PTSD. Those guys like storming outside. I was shaking. I was really terrified. And to come in the next day and have my manager try to write me up for it, it was so f***ed up, dude. So I know what you're thinking, all of this bad stuff. Did I ever try to reach out to corporate about it? Absolutely. We had regional managers that visited sometimes. So I reached out and said, hey, I need to talk to you about some stuff that's been going on in the store that I'm uncomfortable with. And they would say, cool, we'll meet up and we'll talk about it in private. And mysteriously, pretty much every single time, my schedule would be changed so that I was never in on the days that the regional manager was there, even if it meant only giving me 1 shift that week. Speaking of regional managers, there were times when I did get to meet some of them. They would hide outside of the store and watch us around closing time. So if I closed the door past closing and we still had 1 customer left, I would get reprimanded for closing the door because they were like,
oh, well, you should have kept it open for more customers to come in.
When I tried to explain that we did not have the labor to cover us staying longer than 30 minutes past closing, they would never accept that as an answer. So I would get yelled at if I closed the door 5 minutes past closing, but then I would also get yelled at by someone else if we weren't clocked out by 30 minutes after. So no matter what I did, we would get in trouble. 30 minutes is not enough time to close both registers, count the money, do the deposit bag, do all the paperwork, and clean up the store. Like, do you know how dirty Lush stores get? Just in general, they're really dirty, but when you work in a tourist location and you've got people running around slapping the jellies and eating bath product even though you just told them it's bath product, the store gets really messy fast. Like, I had this one little boy came in and he grabbed one of the shower jellies, just picked it up, and he looked at it, and he looked at the ceiling, and he went, shoop, and it stuck. It was up on the ceiling for 5 days. Like, we couldn't reach it, and we just had this hanging shower jelly. It was hysterical, but like, that's the kind of stuff that we had to deal with in our location. I had grown people walking around shoving their hands into product that they didn't pay for and like slapping stuff and getting things dirty. There was nothing I could do. I would be like, ma'am, please don't touch the product unless you're gonna buy it. Hollywood is like a liminal space and people legitimately lose their minds there. I don't know. When I was finally let go, I was let go because I didn't know what to do, honestly. I'm so grateful that I was fired. When that happened, I finally felt comfortable enough to reach out even more, I guess, to corporate, because I had already been trying to talk to corporate. I had emailed them and said, like, there's some stuff going on with Malibu and it's like, it's bad, I need to talk to someone. I honestly feared retaliation. I really thought that something was going to happen. Turns out a week after I emailed corporate to talk about that stuff, I was let go. I emailed them, I said, hey, I'm ready to talk about the stuff that went on at this shop. And they said, okay, please let us know everything. We want to make sure that you're heard. So I sent it off, and after a couple weeks I didn't get a response. So I emailed them again saying, hey, did you get my report on everything that was going on at Lush? They said, no, we didn't get it. Can you send it again? And so I sent it again, and I still never got any response. I mean, I told them everything that I just told you and more, probably. Stuff that I can't remember now. I don't know if they truly just never got my email or if they just didn't care because I was no longer an actual employee, but it was really disappointing. I feel like, Lush tries to put out this image of being such a like wholesome, loving company. And there were a lot of really good things that they did hold up to that standard, but when it came to like, if you're an employee there and you're being abused and there's like shady stuff going on, I was never shown by Lush, by corporate, by managers, by anyone, that anyone cared. That sucks. So yeah, that's the gist of it. I'm probably forgetting some really major things that happened. It's just so hard to remember. It was a really long time ago. I honestly enjoyed introducing Lush and just in general the world of like more natural skincare, I guess, if you can call Lush more natural. They're naturally based. They are not the most natural out there, but I enjoyed introducing their products to people. I enjoyed opening people up because so many people go their whole life thinking that the only products that are available to them are like what you can find at the drugstore, and showing people that, you can have a solid moisturizer or a solid, serum bar or cleanser. It was so fun. I would study the products. I would make little study sheets for my coworkers so that they could learn about essential oils and their properties, and I loved that part. And I had so many regular customers who would come in specifically to see me, and that meant so much to me. After I stopped working there, I had a couple of customers who I was in contact with actually reach out and be like, I can't even go to that store without you anymore because they just get harassed, I see memes a lot about Lush employees, and I know it's really easy to get mad at them for the way that they act and how pushy they are. Try to remember my story and try to remember that they are under constant pressure to act that way. That doesn't make it okay. I would just say, if you don't like to be bothered in a store, just be firm with a Lush employee. Just say, I'm good, thank you, I'd rather look on my own. I will come to you if I need something. And hopefully they'll respect that. If they don't respect that, you don't have to shop there. I would try to talk to a manager, but as you know, like the managers, they're the ones who are pressuring them. In turn, the managers are being pressured by corporate. So it's like this chain of pressure that creates environments where abuse can happen. It's just really unfortunate that that happens with a company like Lush, which on the outside seems to be so pure and wholesome and about love and stuff like that. Oops. Honestly, when I was there, it was probably just a really weird time for the company. They were expanding rapidly. I remember one of my managers told me that like at the big annual managers meeting, one of the founders screamed, like he got up on the stage and was like, you guys are whoring out my products. And I mean, they were. My managers were constantly like, ooh, free stuff, free stuff, free stuff, to try to get employees to buy more so that we would make our goals. All I can hope for now is that the company is a lot healthier and that employees are being treated better. Alright holograms, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Do you have any retail horror stories? Let me know in the comments. I would actually really love to hear your experiences. I hope they're not too bad. Probably have some that are worse than mine. As always, thank you so much to my patrons, and a special shout out to my superstar holograms. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I leave you with a good luck kiss. Mwah, and may the spoons be with you. Bye. Holy shit, we're done. Max had a pee-pee accident. Is that there was always oh my god, I can't talk. I'm so tired. I want to get this done. And there's jelly